Hi guys, and welcome to the Contour series. In the last lesson, we went through the concepts of web services in general. We saw what exactly web services means to us. In this lesson, we'll see web services in a little more depth. We all learned that client and server is the architecture for web services. Client is a service consumer and server is a service provider. By service provider, we means that web services is deployed in this server. And web services is having some functions in it which it has open to rest of the world on internet. Here for example, let's say there are 4 functions, fun 1, 2, 3 and 4, which this web services has open to rest of the world on internet. For this client to get access to any of these functions lying in the web services, there are few things that it needs to know beforehand. It needs to know the machine address of the server where we have deployed the web services, and it should know about some more basic information about this web services. For example, what all functions this web services has to offer, what is the signature of each open function, what are the standards and protocols used by this web services, etc. etc. We'll be talking about all these details in our upcoming tutorials. For now, we would just see the importance of having this detail. All these details service provider captures in a file which is XML file and known as a WSDL file, Web Services Description Language, and makes this file available to the client. And then with the help of this file, client will be able to access the web services. I would just reframe what we have learned so far. We saw that client would need a file known as WSDL file in order to access the web services. Now there comes a question, how client is able to locate WSDL file on internet for a particular service provider? Now there are two answers to this. One is, if service provider knows the client, then service provider directly gives this file to the client, and then client can access the web services using this file. And second is, there is an entity called UDDI on internet. It's a directory on internet where all service provider who wants to issue their web services on internet would first need to register the web services with UDDI using WSDL. So here is how it goes. First of all service providers register their web services with UDDI using their WSDL files. And then any client who is looking for a particular service would go and hit UDDI and would search for a particular service that he is looking for. UDDI would return all service providers who offers that service, and then client will choose one service provider in the list provided and then will get WSDL file of that service provider from UDDI, and then with the help of this file client is able to access the web services. To derive the conclusion, this is what we saw. Service provider will provide the WSDL file to UDDI. The client will get this file from UDDI, and then with the help of WSDL, client is able to access the web services. So far we have learned that there are two ways of accessing web services for a client. One is direct way, which is getting WSDL file directly from the service provider, and second is getting WSDL file of a particular service provider from UDDI. So far we have seen the concepts of web services in general, and now we are ready to get our hands dirty with using Java implementation for web services.